Cool. So human resources, okay? So first of all, some of you are probably thinking to yourselves, okay, I don't ever plan on being a human resources manager. I don't ever plan on working in human resources. Why am I going to sit through a lecture on human resources? And the reality is that I don't care what kind of work you do, you are all going to be in human resources roles, but your title is not going to be human resources. You will all do human resources work, right? I remember the first time that I was in charge of hiring somebody. Man, I wish somebody sat me down and told me these are the illegal things to ask in an interview. These are the things you cannot ask in a reference phone call. Nobody ever gave me that type of training. And man, can you do some boo-boos as you are hiring employees, okay? What else do you guys think human resources people in a human resources department do? Or, I'll ask the question a different way, what do you think you all will do in terms of human resources, even if you're not in a human resources role? Maybe you're an entrepreneurship business owner. Maybe you are just simply in a management role or a senior executive role in a company. What will you do besides hire people and all the things that goes along with hiring people? What do you guys think?
Maybe conduct information to fire someone.
Oh, great. Okay, so I heard training and I heard termination, firing, right? Sure. Okay, so hopefully after we hire that employee, we want to provide them with some type of training. Maybe it's an orientation, maybe it's an onboarding process, maybe it's like overall training, ongoing training. And then we're going to get to a point where, yeah, we have to terminate people, right? So from hiring to firing, okay, cool. What else? What else do you think you'll do as a human resources with your human resources hat on?
Issues like within employees.
Great, great, absolutely. I am going to teach you guys tonight 6 laws that you need to know. We'll keep it really simple, but 6 laws that affect the hiring, firing of employees. So absolutely, what were you going to say?
I was going to say like employee and customer satisfaction.
Good, okay, all good answers. And then the other things you didn't say were things like, how about pay, compensation, benefits, right? Managing that for employees. All of that is part of the human resources function. Okay, so let's get into it. And by the way, just to sum that up, it's kind of an introduction to the topic. If you really think about all the things that human resources departments do, it's either having to do with attracting employees to the company, retaining employees, right, keeping them within the company, or developing employees, right, developing their, their knowledge, their training, etc. Okay, so let's get into it. Have I put my presentation to sleep yet? I may have. Let's look first at a cycle, kind of an overview of what all the human resources stages are. So let's take a look, and this is kind of a little roadmap to my lecture. So we're going to start with recruiting, okay? And all the little factors that go into recruiting employees. I want to talk with you guys tonight about things like how do we run an ad? Where do we run an ad? How much does an ad cost? Okay, so let's look at stuff like that. During the recruiting process, like what can we ask on job interviews? What can we ask when we do employee reference phone calls? What are the illegal questions? Let's talk about that. I want to talk about the selection process, actually choosing the candidate, okay? I want to talk about training, different variations of the type of training that we should be doing with employees. I want to talk about giving feedback, okay? Giving maybe a year-end evaluation or a 6-month evaluation. I want to talk about pay and benefits, not just for you guys to administer pay and benefits to others, but when you are personally negotiating an employment agreement, what types of benefits should you be looking for? Should you be asking about, right? So I want to talk about that tonight. What types of benefits are part of a benefit package? You need to know that, and you need to know to ask for this stuff. Because it may be the difference between whether you take a job or not, right? If a company doesn't offer an attractive benefits package, that benefits package is part of the salary, part of the compensation. So we need to look at that. And then the final thing I want to talk about is you're fired, okay? Whether you're fired means termination or layoff, I want to explain to you the legal differences between the two. Okay, and then after that, I have two other quick topics. One of them being the 6 laws that affect human resources, okay? I want to go through those. How many of you are interior design in the room? Quite a few of you. So one of the laws I want to talk about tonight is OSHA. Have you heard of OSHA? O-S-H-A? See a couple hands shaking yes. OSHA is an important one, and it has something to do with the interior design of the workplace. So we'll get there. And then the very, very last thing I want to do, which is a really hot topic in human resources, sexual harassment, okay? And actually there's a movie out right now in theaters, I just saw it a couple weeks ago, that has to do with this very topic of sexual harassment in the workplace. And it's a really good movie and I want to talk to you guys about it, all right? So that's the plan of attack, quick lecture. So let's start. Let's start with my thingamajig not working. Okay, so let's start with recruiting. So I want to tell you guys 2 quick stories. And we'll kind of play these stories like in tandem, all right? And my first story is, I always tell the story, the Bellagio Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Do you all know the Bellagio Hotel? So the Bellagio Hotel, when it was built, it was the largest hotel in Vegas at the time, and it was also the first hotel to be built for $3 billion. Now there's a $4 billion hotel. Do you know what the $4 billion hotel is? No, but maybe close. The Wynn. The Wynn is now the most expensive one. But when the Bellagio was built, it was the most expensive one. Okay, what does this have to do with this lecture? Well, when the Bellagio was getting ready to open, they had the need to recruit almost 10,000 employees. Can we think about this for 1 second? Imagine being in charge of human resources, okay? We have to recruit almost 10,000 employees. Everybody from the general manager of the hotel all the way down to like the housekeeping staff, okay? Almost 10,000 employees. Now the problem with Las Vegas at the time was the economy was so good that there was not enough unemployment, there were not enough people looking for work, and the Bellagio had a really hard time recruiting, all right? And so what do you think the Bellagio Hotel had to do? It wasn't getting enough job applications. What do you think it had to do? Good, that's a really good answer, because we know when unemployment is low, wages go up, right? So they probably had to pay more for all those open positions. Yeah, what else?
They probably had to offer another incentive.
Good, offer more incentives. So you guys are on the same track, right? You're on the same wavelength. Offer more pay, offer better benefits, different types of incentives. Good answers, really good answers. And what else? So that there weren't enough people in the city of Las Vegas necessarily looking for new work. What do we need to do in terms of recruiting?
Hire people from somewhere else.
Beautiful. Yes, we need to cast our net, our recruiting net, from further away. Everybody agree? From like a larger radius. So what they did actually was they looked at like neighboring cities. Henderson, Nevada is one of the neighboring cities of Las Vegas, Nevada. And so they began to really recruit from places much further away than hotels would normally recruit. Okay, what I'm getting at in that first story is what's called job analysis. Okay, I'm gonna see this on tonight's quiz, gonna see it on next week's exam, gonna see it in tonight's Jeopardy game. So what is job analysis? It's exactly what it sounds. It's pretty much analyzing jobs. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it pretty much means figuring out who we need to hire and what they're going to do. Okay? Who it is that we need to hire, what they're going to do. So let me back up for a second. Whether you are recruiting for your company with 1 employee, or you're the Bellagio Hotel and you're recruiting 10,000 new hires, okay? We need to figure out 2 things first. The first thing is, what are the jobs? Literally, what are the roles we are recruiting for? And then the other thing is, what are the qualifications? Who is it that we need to do those jobs? Okay, so does everybody know what a job description is? One part of job analysis is coming up with the job description. What is a job description? Some of you have job descriptions in your jobs. What's a job description?
Explain how you're going to.
Yeah, so it's a document, right? Usually like a bullet pointed document. And it kind of is all of the roles and responsibilities and the tasks that you, the employee, are expected to perform, okay? But a job spec This is a different document. This is usually a document that a human resources department will put together. A job spec is what are the qualifications for the job. So for example, like what computer skills, how many years of experience, what degree does the individual need, okay? So what can we do if we have a job description and we have a job spec, a list of the qualifications, what can we then easily do?
Give them a task.
Okay, discuss the tasks with candidates for sure and be accurate about what the job is. Yeah, agree. What else? If we have a list of bullet points as to what the qualifications are that we are recruiting for, what can we easily do? Nobody? So I'll give you this word. We can easily screen. Screen. What do I mean by screen? We screen lots of resumes, we screen phone calls, we screen emails, we screen responses to a Facebook post or a Indeed.com post. What does screening mean?
Evaluate.
Yeah, it simply means throw away the ones that are not qualified. So actually what we can do is we can practice legal discrimination, which is kind of what we're doing in the screening process, right? Who are we discriminating against in our hiring process? Who are we discriminating against?
People who don't meet those.
Right, you got it. People who don't meet the qualifications, exactly right, okay? So in other words, if our job spec says must have 5 years of experience, and we get a bunch of resumes that have 1 year of experience, boom, they're disqualified. Make sense? Okay, so that's the job analysis piece. Job analysis has two parts: figuring out what the jobs are, and then figuring out who it is we need to recruit to do the jobs. Okay, now, that's this piece. Now I want to talk about the rest of this piece. So I mentioned to you guys that the Bellagio Hotel needed to recruit something like 9,900 employees, almost 10,000 employees. A lot, agree? Can you imagine what a daunting task that is? Everybody from the general manager down to the housekeeping staff. So they needed to figure out demand for labor, okay? And there are two places that labor, what is labor? Just people looking for work, right? Two places that labor come from, internal and external. Internal means inside the company, right? It is always in our best interest to move or promote people from within. Why? Let's talk about that. Why is it always in our best interest to recruit from employees who are already within our company? Now, think about it. For the Bellagio Hotel, there is no within because we don't have employees yet, right? We're brand new. But why is it always beneficial to recruit from within?
It costs money to hire someone.
Say it again.
It costs more money to hire someone with training.
Yeah, good. That's a really good point. So you know what? It does cost more money to bring somebody in from the outside for a lot of reasons. One is the physical money we're going to spend on running ads and recruiting and screening and the time and the training. But the other thing is that when you bring in a new employee from the outside, do you know how much you need to pay them? I don't know, Mr. Conti, what are you asking me for a number? I'm not asking for a number, but when you bring a new employee from the outside in, what do you need to pay that employee? Market value for the job. Do you get that? A lot of times when we move employees, even if we promote an employee from within, they come often cheaper than a brand new employee who comes from the outside, okay? Because somebody that comes from the outside gets market value for their position, all right? So you're right, recruiting from internal is often a cheaper way to go. But what else? What other assumptions can you make about somebody from inside that you can't make from somebody outside? Performance. You know exactly what you're going to get because you've already kicked the tires, agree? So it's always a safer bet if we have somebody to recruit internally to move that person, to promote that person, to offer them, promotion from within. Okay, but in the Bellagio's example, there is no internal, so we have to promote, we have to recruit externally. I want to talk to you guys for a second about blind versus open ads. So first of all, before we even talk about this, when you guys job search, where do you look? What's your preferred job search tool? Where do you look?
Indeed.
Indeed? Yep, Indeed is good. What else you got? Where?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn? Yep, for sure. Who else? Anybody do creepy Craigslist? Man, the only good thing about Craigslist is that it only costs $25 to run an employment ad. Do you know Career Builder? Career Builder costs like $400 and change to run an ad. So that can get really expensive if you have many open job positions. Agree? Not every small business has $400 times the number of different job openings. So that can get really expensive, and that's why companies will use like a Craigslist for $25. Where else? Where else can we run ads to recruit externally? Where can we run ads? Where do you guys look? We've got Indeed, Monster, LinkedIn. What else you got? Craigslist, Career Builder. What else you got? For you guys, how about Wade College Career Connection? How many of you have logged into that and poked around there? Yeah? So lots of colleges have like their own internal job boards, right, that recruiters will use. Okay, so you've seen these, you just didn't know they had a name. Blind versus open advertisements. I want to talk about what are they and why do companies use them. So what is a blind advertisement? Does anybody know? What's blind about it? Anybody know?
Not sure,
Like
like
they don't-
social media, when they put some ad or something and you get a buy.
Depends. Some employment ads that we see on social media are open and some are blind. What makes a blind ad blind? Whether it's on Facebook, whether it's in Career Builder, or whether it's in wherever, Craigslist. What makes it blind?
Yeah, put all the information,
Specifically what?
like pay and
That can vary. What makes an ad blind? Ideas?
they don't put the company's name.
Companies. That's it. That's it. Okay? So let me give you an example. In a blind ad, the ad might say, marketing firm in Dallas seeks director of marketing with 5 years of experience for mid-level position. In an open ad, it might say, Niven Morgan luxury bath and body products seeks director of marketing with 5 years experience. Okay, so let's talk about this. Why do companies run blind versus open ads? Why would a company not disclose its name? Put your business hats on and think about it for a second. Especially a company that has a really good reputation that might attract lots of applicants. We want lots of applicants, right? The more applicants you have for a job, the better the quality of the candidates that you can choose. Why would we choose not to disclose our name? I've run ads for Wade College before where I've written, Creative College in the DFW area seeks, and I'm not gonna finish my sentence because I don't wanna tell you what job opening there is. What do you guys think? Why would we not disclose our name?
Less.
Less what?
Well, like if someone's really interested, they're actually like apply for it. Instead
Okay.
of having 1,000 people.
Okay, so if we're a really popular brand to avoid people just applying because they know the name for a brand, okay? All right, I like where you're going. What else?
I was just gonna say curiosity.
Okay, great, to kind of avoid the curiosity factor or create curiosity.
To create.
Create it, so we run blind ads to create a curiosity factor, okay? In the applicant, all right, yeah?
Maybe having them look into what company it is so we can check, all the qualifications needed and stuff.
Okay, so we run an open ad, then we're giving them the ability to do their research and to prepare. Why run a blind ad though? Why run a blind ad? What do you guys think? Why would a company not disclose its name in a recruiting advertisement? Okay, well, you haven't experienced this, so let me tell you what it is. Imagine right now we are company A, and we are getting ready to terminate this director of marketing, yeah? And so before we terminate this person, you don't think we're just gonna terminate somebody without having somebody prepped and ready to go into the role, right? So we run a blind ad for two reasons. Number one, so that the person doesn't find out that, oh shit, my job is on the line, yeah? Okay? And B, we may have already decided that either there is no internal candidate or we don't want internal candidates to apply for the job for whatever reason. So we run blind ads basically to exclude people from within our company applying, and so we don't tip off the current person who's getting terminated. You follow? Okay. So next time you see blind ads that don't disclose the name of the company, you better think twice. Not that it's a bad thing, but that maybe you're replacing somebody who's getting terminated, or maybe that company has decided already they don't want to recruit internally for that job, that open job. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so selection process. Okay, I want to share with you guys now all the things that I never learned in my first job at Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair was my first true management job. When I was at Bauer Bloomingdale's, I didn't hire anybody, I didn't recruit anybody, I didn't have anybody report to me. But at Vanity Fair, I did, and I was I was responsible for recruiting and hiring and training people. By the way, including our internship program. And nobody ever sat me down and said, these are the legal things you can talk about in an interview, and these are the things you can't ask, and these are the things that you can call people's references and ask, and these are the, so that's what I want to talk about right now, okay? So let's talk about that. The interview, all right? And by the way, the interview is where the most personal bias comes into play. Remember that job spec we wrote up? Who can you remind me what a job spec is? A document that says what? What is the job spec? Not to be confused with the job description. Well, right. So if we just stick to screening people and interviewing people based on qualifications, we are good. No personal bias. Okay? But personal bias is where we start making judgment calls about the way people look and the way, whatever the case is. Okay. What are the questions that you cannot ask an interviewee, a candidate?
Age.
Can't ask age. So I can ask, are you of legal age to work? But you're right. I can't say, like, what lovely skin do you have? How old are you? Can't say that. No. Okay, what else? Can't ask age.
Sexuality.
Great. What team do you play for? Or even things like, are you married? Is that a wedding ring on your... Can't ask those questions. True. What else you got? Religion. What a lovely, scarf you have on. Is that for religious purposes? Is that a yarmulke? Cannot have any conversation about religious affiliation, beliefs, including non-belief. You can't ask somebody, are you a believer? Somebody once asked me that, and for a minute I wasn't thinking religion. I said, believe in what? If I believe in what? What do I believe? I believe lots of things. What else? Okay, so we've got age, we've got gender. Hopefully you don't have to ask somebody's gender, but gender, sexual orientation, identity, religion. What else can't we ask? Race, ethnicity, country of origin. Is that a tan you have? Can't ask anything about, the color of your skin or all that. Accent, regional accent. Can't ask those things. I heard children, that's a good one. In addition to marital status, you can't even have the cute little conversation like, so you have a picture of your kids on a desk. Oh, are those your kids? Cannot ask that question. Okay, that also is technically illegal. It's an elite because you can't ask questions about childcare and all that kind of stuff. You know what else you can't ask technically? It's gonna sound weird. Where do you live? You're like, well, that's stupid because I'm gonna write that on my resume, I'm gonna write it on my job application, right? I'm probably gonna write it on a million forms, but technically on an interview, you cannot discuss where the candidate lives unless, there's always kind of an unless the company is providing you a vehicle or there's travel involved and you need to be near an airport. But other than that, if the candidate is just going to commute back and forth to work, you cannot ask where they live. Now, can I ask you guys a question? Raise your hand if you as a candidate, as an interviewee, have ever been asked these questions or ever had these types of conversations. Almost all of us, for the viewers at home. We have almost, how many times earlier on in my, sometimes still, I get asked like, how old are, because, how old are you? Are you really that old? How old are you? And how do you answer? So, by the way I answer that one is, oh, thank you, I'm old enough to have all the experience on that resume. You never answer those questions, right? Okay, now, references. So the interview is over, and now we are gonna call references. What are the illegal questions to ask somebody's do you all know what references are before I move on? Yes or no? Do all of you have references? 2, 3, 4 individuals who are not your family members and they don't have your same last name, right? But who are they? Ideally, who are your references? Former managers, ideally. Either academic setting, like a professor or administrator of a college, or former employer, right? Those are the ideal, because those are the people who are gonna be able to talk to your abilities. Okay, what are the illegal questions? So I'll make this simple. All the things that we can't ask on a job interview, you can't ask of references either. But what else is illegal? What else can you not ask references of an interviewee?
They got fired.
Why did they quit? Why did they quit?
So, okay, that's a tough one. If they got fired, you can ask. Was the person terminated? That's legit, you can ask that. Why were they terminated? That's considered part of your confidential file. Employee file cannot be verified. So you can ask if they were fired, you can't ask why. There's one they'll never teach you.
Would you be able to ask them how much you like paid them?
Okay, really glad we went there. And I'm gonna surprise a lot of you with my answer. So technically, salary is also part of your confidential employee file with your company, and that cannot be verified. Now, here's my warning though. You should never lie about your own salaries or wages, because while a reference check can never confirm salaries, do you know what a company can ask you when you get hired? To bring a W-2 or a pay stub. That's legal because you are personally providing that information about yourself to the company. So never lie about salary or wages, because they can ask you to actually prove it, okay? But no, you cannot ask that on a reference call. You cannot say, hey, I just interviewed a great candidate, can I verify their salary? Do you know how many times I do all the reference calls for Wade College? Do you know how many times other colleges and companies will call and say, hey, we need to verify salary? And I say, no way. That is confidential information. I don't share that. I can share everything about productivity and performance and attitude and all that kind of stuff. You can ask, were they on time? Cannot ask any of the illegal questions in a job interview. You cannot confirm salary, okay? They can ask you your wages or salary directly, but cannot ask references. Cool? Okay, how many of you, before I go on, are in charge of or have ever done interviewing? You have interviewed to hire employees. Cool, 2 of you, okay, good. I promise you all of you will eventually be responsible for that in the various roles that you have as managers. And you really want to be very careful about asking things that teeter on the 6 laws that we're gonna learn about in a little bit, that have to do with age, gender, income, sexuality, where you live, marital status, religion, all that kind of stuff. Yes, sir.
My question is kind of related to that. Like, what if you were asked those questions?
Yep.
And then, like, how can you like avoid?
So, first of all, I feel like most of us have been asked those questions. I know I've been asked a lot of those questions in the many years that I've interviewed for jobs. Look, sometimes when you're asked too many of those questions, you kind of decide like, I don't think I really want to work for this company, right? This seems like a toxic environment. Sometimes, if it's literally just the naive of the interviewee, you might just skirt the question, what religion do you practice? Well, I'm not really comfortable discussing that. How old are you? I'm old enough to have the experience on my resume. There's ways to get around those questions as an interviewee. As an interviewer, don't ask those questions because you're gonna put your company in jeopardy, okay? Okay, so let's say we've done a round of interviewing and now we're ready to start screening candidates. And there's a few ways that we can screen candidates. The first is we can offer tests. How many of you have ever, and I want to talk about the legality of tests. When are tests illegal? And I don't mean PP tests. We'll talk about that in a second. But I mean actual tests. How many of you have ever taken a test to get a job? I know I have. What kind of tests have you taken? What kind of tests did you take?
More like situation.
Okay, yep. Did it have to do with like honesty or problem solving, something like that? Okay.
No, like-
all right. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say like whether it's with money or like a one-on-one competition, what would you do? And it gives you a list.
Kind of like a multiple choice list of like, here's a problem, how would you solve?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Mine was more like math based,
Yes.
like what's 30% off of something?
Were you allowed to use calculator?
No.
Wow. Okay, so when I interviewed for the executive training program at Bloomingdale's, my very first step before anybody would even look at me in the face was a math test. It was with a calculator, I remember that. It's pretty involved. They gave you some formulas, but man, if you didn't pass that math test, you did not even advance to a first interview, all right? Who else took a test?
It was kind of like based on the jobs and like things you had to do.
Good.
So like, say if you were gonna give out an order, you had to make sure everything was like based on the plate and stuff like that.
Good.
Or give out the amount of napkins or whatever it
Cool.
is.
Interesting. Anybody ever take a Word test? Like Word, Excel, PowerPoint? I've done those too, where they test like your Excel knowledge or your Word knowledge. Okay, when are tests illegal? What are they illegal? When are they literally an example of illegal discrimination? When can we not give candidates tests? Ideas. Can I give a janitor a math test? I can give an assistant buyer a math test. Can I give a janitor a math test? Yes or no? Can I give a physical examination? I have that up there or not. And I don't mean me personally, the interviewer, like drop your pants. But I mean, can I send a candidate to our medical facility to have a physical examination? Yes or no? I see heads yes, and I see heads no, and I see heads like I have no freaking clue. Okay, so again, when are tests illegal? When do they practice illegal discrimination? Ideas. What are we trying to do during this whole screening process?
What if the job qualified the person? And yes, if it doesn't, and I send them to do a math test, if the job has nothing to do with math.
Exactly. Okay, so when is a physical examination legit? Well, if we're UPS and we're hiring UPS delivery people, and part of the qualification is that you have to be able to lift 50 pounds, then guess what? A physical examination is a legal piece of the screening process. If a janitor does not need math to do their job, then a math test would be an illegal form of recruiting for a janitor. But because an assistant buyer, 90% of their job is math, then obviously a math test is a completely legitimate way to recruit. Okay, so you hit the nail on the head. It's, does the test measure the ability to do the job? If you can argue that, then the test is legit. It's legal, okay? If the test does not measure the ability to do the job, then it's an illegal, it's illegal discrimination. Cool? Okay, so we talked about that. Reference checks we talked about already. Background checks. What kind of background checks can we perform? So we already talked about calling references. And you know, references, you can never 100% be sure that they're legit, right? You never know if you're calling somebody's best friend or not, or were you really their boss? Sometimes you just can't verify that type of information. So I take references with a grain of salt. But what other types of background checks can we do?
Criminal check.
Say it again.
Credit check.
Credit check, definitely. When is a credit check, when is it permissible, a credit check? Or I should ask it a different way. What kind of positions and what kind of companies do use credit checks as part of the background check process?
Banks.
Definitely any kind of financial institution. And yeah, that was what I was getting at. Any type of role where you might deal with a company's budget, funding, finances, you better believe a credit check is probably going to be a part of that background check. Yeah, I agree. What else? What are the type of background checks?
Criminal.
Criminal, definitely criminal check. Yeah. Most of our organizations are not going to want to hire people that have done some type of major felony, right? Because that's a liability. What else? Okay, absolutely. If there's military service, we're going to verify military service. How about just literally calling former employees, or now emailing former employees, to verify things like dates of employment? Can you do that? Can you call a candidate's former employee and verify their dates of employment? Yeah, absolutely, right? We want to make sure that there aren't lies on a resume. Agree? So, as a candidate, never lie about dates of employment on your resume. Always get those accurate, okay? Even if it's just month, year on your resumes, really important to make sure those are correct, because they can be verified, okay? All right, so, ta-da, congratulations, you've got the job. Now we have an employee. How many of you have ever started a job, and I can raise my hand for this one too, with absolutely no orientation, no training, just like baptism by fire, kicked right into the first day of work, no training? And then how many of you have actually had some type of formalized training in a job as well? I have in some jobs. Okay, what is the difference? Why, as a company, why invest in orientation? Why invest in, we're gonna talk about on-the-job and off-the-job training. Why invest money in that, time and money? At Bloomingdale's, I got 6 months of full-time training, literally 6 months. And it was a combination of these 3 things. Why? Paid. Why invest that money? Knowledge is power, okay? And in this case, knowledge means what for the employee? Well, what can we assume about an employee who gets a proper orientation and then some proper training? What are they gonna be? Yeah. They're gonna be more productive faster, and they're gonna start to make the company money faster than the employee who is physically learning on the job and making mistakes on the job and can be very costly. Do you guys agree? So I'm a big proponent for training. How many of you have ever gotten an orientation? And I want to know from you guys, how long have these orientations been? How long? 6 hours? 1 hour? 4 hours? 3 hours?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. All right, now we're talking. What was a 3-week orientation like?
It was more of register training
Okay.
and human resource stuff and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Good, good. Policies, procedures, systems trainings, probably lots of guest speakers, right? Kind of help you drink the Kool-Aid a little bit, right? Introduce you to the culture of the company and what the expectations are. Good. Okay, so orientation, right? Employees who receive orientations are more productive than those who don't because there's less error on the job up front. What's the difference between on-the-job and off-the-job training? At Bloomingdale's during our orientation, we had both on-the-job and off-the-job training. On-the-job is also known as real-time training, and off-the-job is also known as, or also shadowing on the job. Right? Off-the-job is basically just like classroom training. But what's the difference? What's the difference? When I worked at Bloomingdale's, a lot of my orientation was actually on the job where I was shadowing another assistant buyer, literally working alongside of her, learning the work as she did it day in and day out. What's the difference?
On the job is like what you said, like the shadow, but off the job, I would say like what they did at my job, like they would say, oh, like at home, like log in here for 4 hours and you can learn like how the company works. And what
Great, okay, so log into a computer portal and do some type of simulated training. Okay, we're gonna talk about that in a second too. And that's definitely an example of like off the job, a controlled environment where you don't have the interruptions from the daily, whatever the workplace is, where you can actually learn material, all right? What else? How many of you have ever done off the job training where it's not in real time? What type of off the job training did you do?
It's more of the same thing.
Yeah, computer-based, okay? Anybody ever get to like fly to another city to go to like a conference or a company meeting, right? At Ralph Lauren, we would do that once a year. We'd pick a different city every year, and we would fly all of our field employees from all over the US and Canada to a city, and we'd have like a 5-day, I used to call it like a Kool-Aid session, but it was like a 5-day, it was our national training, and we'd have meetings and speakers, and everybody from corporate was there. We'd, wine and dine and, gift, and it was just a crazy, but it really set us up for like a really productive half of a year. That's off the job training, right? Classroom environment. Okay, now I have a crazy question to ask you. By the way, today a pilot, I don't know if you guys saw this in the news, a Delta pilot accidentally dumped fuel from the sky onto a school, an elementary school in LA, accidentally, okay? Now, how many of you would fly a plane, would get on a plane if you knew a pilot was training? Anybody? Anybody? Gutsy enough to do hell? You're like, hell no. What? Hell no. Okay. So, I mean, imagine what a liability that would be, right? How do we train pilots? How do we train pilots before they can be trustworthy enough to be on a real plane and fly? Right, exactly. Through simulated like software, right? When I worked for Bloomingdale's and we were learning how to use the computer system, like you mentioned, you know, literally the press of a button, F1. F1 was the button that used to scare the shit out of you, right? Do not press F1 unless you are sure. Because you could change the price of merchandise in every single store in the United States. Think about how scary that is. Imagine having a assistant buyer with no experience price changing merchandise throughout the entire system. So you want people to learn in a computer-based environment. That's called vestibule training. Okay, a pilot learning in a simulated system, employee learning the company's computer system in a dummy system. That's that. Okay, training, important. Does everybody agree? Right? Training is a really important component of what human resources can offer. Now, I want to talk about evaluation and compensation. Okay? In other words, a review and pay. So here's one that is going to stump whoever gets this question in Jeopardy! When does performance appraisal begin legally? When does the performance appraisal process legally begin? Now, let me tell you something. Does everybody know that the state of Texas is employment at will? Not every state is an employment at will state, but we in Texas are employment at will. What does that mean? How many of you have heard that before? Employment at will. 2 of them. Okay. So for everybody else, what does that mean? That we are an employment at will state. And by the way, it means something for the employee and the employer. What does it mean? Say it again. Yeah. Okay, so for employees, it means you and I can quit whenever the heck we want, agree? You don't even have to give 2 weeks notice. You can quit today. Peace out, sayonara. Now, never do that, of course, right? Always give notice because you want to be referenceable and you never know who your reputation is going to, move around with other people. But what does it mean for the employer that we are an employment at will state here in Texas?
They can fire you anytime
And
without any reason.
yes. So employers in the state of Texas can part with employees for any time, for any reason, and they don't need to furnish you with that information. They don't need to tell you why you are fired. So you as an employer can fire employees and you don't have to tell them why, okay? So it kind of makes it a little bit easier as an employer in the state because you don't have to keep unbelievable records and firing somebody's a little bit easier, okay? If this were another state and firing somebody wasn't so easy, then we would really need to discuss this performance appraisal. Okay, so first of all, what is performance appraisal? It's giving a review, okay? Giving some kind of formalized review process. However often you do it, most companies do it once a year, okay? Now, when does performance appraisal legally begin? Okay, if you didn't hear, he said 3 months in. What else? By 3 months, you mean 90 days. What else? Don't write that down.
6 months?
Okay. What else? We could say 30 days. We could say day 1. What do you guys think? We could say during the interview. Okay, let me tell you. Performance appraisal does not legally begin until measurable performance measures are given. I'm going to say that in plain English, all right? If today's your first day of work and all I tell you as the employer is welcome aboard, do a good job, I have given you no measurable performance measures. Agree? I've not given you anything measurable. But if on day 1 I give you an employee handbook with policies, a dress code, maybe in a sales position I give you a sales quota, those are measurable performances. When can performance appraisal begin? Now. Do you understand? Performance appraisal cannot begin until we give measurable performance standards. Okay? Now, in the state of Texas, it kind of doesn't matter, right? Why? Because I can fire an employee and I don't need to give them documentation as to why you're being terminated, all right? But elsewhere, performance appraisal legally begins once we've given measurable performance standards, okay? Now, ideally, performance appraisal is tied to money, right? What does that mean? That performance appraisal should be tied to compensation, money. What does that mean? We learned last week Frederick Taylor's classic theory of scientific management. Man, that's a mouthful. What does that mean? What did he come up with? Frederick Taylor's classic theory of scientific management. What was his theory?
It's not like the motive.
Which one? What was his motivation? Hey, how? How, what did he say? How does, remember he went into that factory, a bunch of factories, and he did time and motion studies, and he figured out how people did their jobs, but he figured out performance only increases when pay does what?
When it's tied with how much you do.
Good. When pay is tied to performance, you work harder, right? Why do we work harder? Because money motivates us. So we work harder to make more money. So hopefully performance appraisal is tied to pay. Okay, so let's go here first. Does everybody know the difference between wages and salary? Hopefully you do. What's the difference between wages and salary? What are wages, what are salary? One example of wages is hourly. It's not the only example. What else is wages?
Commission?
Sure. What else you got? Examples of wages. How about project-based pay, where you get paid for projects? How about consulting, where you get paid a consulting fee for a consulting work that you do? How about an adjunct professor who teaches a class and gets paid for a class? That's all wages. What are wages? Money paid for time worked. What is salary? What? Did you say fixed? Fixed, yes, that's it. Salary is fixed. So I'm a salaried employee. What does that mean? It means that whether I work this week 30 hours or 60 hours, I'm gonna get paid the same. My pay is the same every paycheck, okay? And sometimes I do work a lot more hours than others. My pay doesn't vary. It's a fixed pay over 52 weeks, okay? Now, back to performance appraisal. So we give performance appraisal. We're gonna rate employees. We're gonna give them feedback and we're gonna rate them based on whatever the job expectations are. There are two philosophies here. One of these ties pay to performance and the other one doesn't. Let's start with COLA. Does anybody know what COLA, and not Coca-Cola, stands for? COLA.
Cost of living adjustment.
It is cost of living adjustment. How'd you know that? Oh, good. Beautiful. Cost of living adjustment. Okay, so what is a cost of living adjustment? Let me explain it to you. So imagine if I tell all of you, my employees, guys, this year, all of you are gonna make a 2% increase, okay? Every employee at my company is going to receive a 2% salary increase. Okay, how do we feel about that? First of all, why am I giving a 2% salary increase to everybody? Why? Why do employers give raises? Well, what's one reason why employers give raises? Why would I give everybody a 2% salary increase for this year?
Doing well.
Say it again?
Companies doing well.
Okay, because financially the company is performing well, so we can afford to increase everybody's salaries, sure. All right.
Like those.
So, cost of living went up.
Right, because the cost of being a citizen in this country and living on planet Earth, every year the cost of things go up. What cost goes up? Rent, gas, electric, water, whatever, clothes, right? Food. So employers try to meet inflation by increasing people. Okay, what's the problem with a cost of living adjustment? What's the problem with it? Think back to what we're talking about. The idea of performance appraisal, Frederick Taylor's scientific management. What's the problem with giving everybody the same salary increase? Well, think about it. Do we all deserve the same salary increase? I'm usually the hardest worker in the room. And to be honest with you guys, I'm gonna be pissed if this lazy ass over here is getting the same salary increase as me. That's gonna do nothing to motivate me. Do you agree? Right? And by the way, for the record, I pointed to nobody. Okay, so let me explain to you the opposite of a cost of living adjustment, and it's this thing. and every company I've ever worked for had some version of this, a merit salary system. Okay, so what's a merit salary system? Simple. In this performance appraisal, we have a rating system. Every company has some different version of this. But here's what it kind of looks like. We might have meets expectations, exceeds expectations, satisfactory, unsatisfactory. And depending on what the employee's rating is, maybe the satisfactory employee gets the 2% salary increase, but maybe the employees who are rated higher than that get 3%. And the exceeds performer, gets maybe a 5% salary increase, and the you suck gets a 0. Doesn't that make a lot more sense? What are we doing here? Think back to Frederick Taylor Scientific Management. What are we doing here? So we're doing performance appraisal, we're giving feedback, right? We're rating the employee, and what are we doing? Maybe we're rewarding the high performers, we're penalizing the low performers, which we definitely want to do. What are we doing with the system?
So like paying for performance?
Beautiful. We are tying pay to performance, right? Here, it's Soviet Russia. Everybody gets the same, everybody gets the same. Here, we're tying pay to performance, so we're actually incentivizing people to work harder because we all want to work harder for more money. Do you agree? Okay, so that is compensation. Now, I want to tell you guys something really, really important. Something that a professor of mine in college told me a lot of years ago, and I will never, ever forget it. And I haven't forgotten it to this day, and I tell my students every term. When you are negotiating, and I'm talking right now about you as an employee, okay, as a candidate applying for a job. When you are negotiating a compensation package, okay, your pay that we just got done talking about, your pay is only 70% of the total compensation package. Do you understand that? If you're negotiating a job and your job is paying you $50,000, that's the salary. Please do not come to Mr. Conti and be like, oh my God, I got a job and I'm making $50,000. No, you're not. You're making $50,000 plus an extra $15,000. So really you're making $65,000 because 30% of the total compensation package is benefits. Okay, so let's talk about what are the benefits that you all should be negotiating for, that you should be asking for. You know when they ask you in a job interview, do you have any questions? One of your questions should be, tell me about the types of benefits you offer employees. So here are the benefits. Medical. Do you all know there are two main categories of medical plans, and they could not be more different. HMO, PPO. Raise your hand if you've never heard this before. Appreciate the honesty. An HMO is a healthcare managed plan. This is less desirable. This is where you can only be in network, they tell you what doctor to see, you don't have a lot of choices, you have to choose one doctor who refers you to other doctors. It's a big pain in the ass. It's a cheap plan. PPO is preferred provider. This is where you can go to lots of doctors, you can go to specialists, you can go in or out of network, you get a lot more options, okay? Good companies who want to attract good employees, competitive employees, they offer this type of benefit. Companies that are not really interested in attracting the best candidates are only going to offer that type of less expensive healthcare plan. Okay? So there's that. Vision. Let me ask you a quick question that I need to know for later. How many of you don't wear glasses or contact lenses? Raise your hand if you don't. Not me. I'm blind as a bat. Let me see. Lucky you guys. Let me see hands. No glasses, no and you can see. You can see. You can see. Very lucky. Okay. So for you guys, you probably won't care that a company's offering vision benefits, right? Because you don't need them. You don't need glasses or contacts. Hold that thought for a second. How many of you have teeth? you all have teeth? Yeah? Good. Okay. So we all want a dental plan, yeah? Because we want to at least be able to go to the dentist twice a year to like get our cleanings and an x-ray. Agree? Okay, so there's that. I won't ask, but if you take a prescription drug, whether it's a maintenance drug that you take every month, or maybe it's just like, you know, when you get the flu or sick, prescription coverage is a really important thing because prescription medication is very expensive. You guys know that, right? Very expensive. Okay, how many of you go to a gym? Really? Okay, delayed reaction. Some companies will pay you for your gym membership. They will reimburse you for your gym membership. Some companies may have an agreement with a gym, fitness facility, that you get free or discounted gym membership. And then all types of other stuff. The companies do different like wellness fairs and they offer wellness stuff. Great. I'm gonna ask you in a second why. Doesn't all this sound expensive, right? Why? Flex spending. So there is something called an FSA, which is it's a healthcare savings account where you can take money out of your paycheck and you put it into an account, and that account you get to use pre-tax on any type of approved medical expenses, co-pays and doctor visits and all that kind of stuff. Here's an easy question. How many of you are in college? Imagine if your employer paid your tuition or reimbursed you if you got a C or better in each class that you took. Okay, that's called like tuition reimbursement. Okay, here's my question. Why? Why? Like, why is a company willing to give you an additional 30% of your compensation in an assortment of benefits? Why? Okay, because it may do what to your performance at work? Okay, all right. So in a lot of ways, we use these packages to retain employees. Retain, right? Healthy, happy, cared for employees are going to do what? Perform better and stay. They're going to stay in their jobs for longer periods of time. So it actually drives our cost down in the long run because we don't have to continually replace turnover, right? Turnover employees. Okay, so I like that. What else does this package of benefits help us do as an employer?
Like learning.
Definitely improve training and improve the productivity of employees. Good, agree. What else? Yeah, it's gonna help us attract, right? What do good benefit packages do? Attract employees. Okay, written question on exam number 3. That will be the last time I ever say that. Sad, isn't it? What is a cafeteria benefit plan? That's the question. Okay, so first of all, please do not write anything about food, okay? It has nothing to do with food. If you write an essay about food, I'm gonna come hunt you down, all right? But if you think about it, when you go to a cafeteria and you get your tray, what do you do at a cafeteria?
Fill it.
What is it?
You fill it.
You fill your tray with what?
The food that they provide.
With what? Things you want. What do you do at a cafeteria? You pick and choose. Okay, so earlier I asked you guys, how many of you have vision needs? And a bunch of you don't wear glasses or contacts, so if I tell you my company offers a vision plan, you kind of don't care. But it's one size fits all. Most companies say just, this is our benefit package, take it or leave it. A cafeteria style plan, which by the way is kind of rare because this is a really expensive little setup. A cafeteria plan gives employees a lump sum of money. So imagine I said, okay, you get $5,000, and it's not cash, it's value, okay? And you get to pick and choose, just like you do in a cafeteria. Pick and choose the benefits that you want. So for example, for those of you who don't have vision needs, you would put $0 towards vision. And you'd have more money to put towards maybe a better PPO. Or maybe you have some effed up teeth, so you have a better dental plan. Or, maybe you're in college, so you put more of your dollars towards tuition reimbursement. Cool? That's what a cafeteria benefit plan is. It allows each employee to basically customize a benefit package based on a lump sum of money. And let me explain something to you. It's a really expensive way to administer benefits because all of a sudden now we don't have all employees on the same medical plan, right? Or all employees on the same dental plan. We allow people to pick and choose various plans, right? But it's to meet everybody's lifestyle. Okay, done. We talked about pay, we talked about benefits. Questions so far?
What
Go
if
for it.
it's like coming out of your paycheck instead of them giving you like some?
Yeah, so here's the deal. Most companies do not subsidize 100% of the value of all of this, okay? So and you may not realize this, but they may cover 80% of it, 90% of it, 70% of it. Most companies expect the employee to front some of that cost, and that cost will come out of your paycheck, however often. Yes, but even if you're putting in 10 or 20%, your employer is probably covering 70 or 80 or 90% of the cost of that stuff. Good question. Okay, I want to talk about some other benefits that are not health or dental or vision or prescription or tuition reimbursement, but it comes in other ways. One of them is flex time. Man, this was like a big deal in the 80s. Then it went out of vogue later, and now this stuff is back and it's like major trend again. What is flex time? It can mean a lot of different things. What does it mean if a company allows you flex time? What is flex time?
And you could work 40 hours in 4 days.
Could work 40 hours in 4 days. You could do it in 3 days. You could do it in 7 days. Some people want to work short days so they can be home to pick up their kid from work. And so they'll allow people to pretty much decide when they work, what hours they work, day, evening, whatever the case is. Okay, good. So that's flex time, number one. The other thing I want to talk about, still talking about like benefits that come another way, is telecommuting. Telecommuting doesn't just mean work from home. Let me just make that clear. Although I just got to tell you something, look at this. This is a study that from just recently. Microsoft tried a 4-day work week where the 5th day people work from home, productivity jumped 40%, okay? And they've done tons of studies. People who work from home are more productive. Why? You would think maybe people from work from home get away with so much, but people who work from home are actually super productive. Why? Say it again. Comfortable. Comfort is a huge factor, yeah. You know what else people from work from home don't have? The stress of commute, the cost of the commute, and the distraction of people. Think about how much time we waste in the workplace. Bullshit, chatting, distraction, talking about your weekend and your kids and the coffee and the water cooler, right? People who work from home are super productive because they get their work done. So there's that. Telecommuting can also mean giving people the choice of where to work. Think about it. If we're a company and we have 5 offices, and we give people the choice of which office do you want to work out of, which one will they choose?
One closest to them.
Right, the one that is the least expensive to commute to, the one that's going to cost us the least money in gas or MetroCard or whatever the case is. So that's a benefit. Job sharing, where multiple employees can share jobs. Flex time, I think we talked about that. Okay, so those are all trends, human resources trends that are considered benefits because they're work-life balance benefits. Okay, almost done. Separation. Separation is a euphemism, a nice word for terminations and layoffs, or you're fired. What is the legal difference between termination and layoff? Who knows? The legal difference. Can't legally use the word layoff unless what? Take a stab.
If it's like the company's fault that you have to, or like an issue within the company that they have to leave.
Okay, all right. Short, along the right lines. What's a termination and what's a layoff? What do we have to do in order to officially label something a layoff?
Layoff, then the company has to be losing money.
Not necessarily.
A position gets eliminated. So it's like,
Okay, yes. A layoff is where a position is closed for a certain period of time, okay? And by the way, lots of companies can get around this very easily by simply changing titles, right? We lay off our receptionist, but we hire somebody else who's an administrative assistant. But a layoff is where the position is closed for a certain period of time. Termination means there was wrongful doing on the part of the employee and they're being replaced. Okay, so a termination, we're replacing the employee. Layoff, we are not replacing the position. Okay, that's the legal difference. Now, on this note, avoiding wrongful termination, I want to do my second to last slide, which is 6 laws. 6 HR laws that are really important, okay? Don't take crazy notes on these, just write down a blurb for each, okay? 6 laws. Number 1, Civil Rights Act of 1964, specifically Title VII. So this was the first employment act that protects groups of people, okay? You cannot be discriminated against, either not hired or wrongly fired, based on your age, race, and all the things that come with race, ethnicity, age, race, all of that, religion, that's pretty much it. Age, race, religion. Those are the big ones, okay? Civil Rights Act 1964 cannot be discriminated against. By the way, is that always true? Can we never not hire somebody because of their color?
No. You cannot hire them. Like, say if you go for a model casting,
Exactly the example I was going to give. Yep.
they're asking for a certain aesthetic.
Great.
So if you don't fit it, then they can.
If
say,
we are Essence Magazine and we are an African American publication and we would like a black model on the cover of our magazine and a Caucasian model applies for the job, yes, she can be discriminated against, or he, because race is directly tied to the role. If we're hiring for a female to work female restroom or female fitting room and a male applies for the job, we can discriminate against them based on gender. So there are rare instances where, the law does not apply, okay? Number 2, EEOP and EEOC. First of all, let me explain to you the difference. Equal Employment Opportunity Protection is the law itself. I'll explain to you what the law is, although it's super similar. EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, is the agency of the federal government that oversees and administers the law. One more time. EEOP is the law, it's non-discrimination, okay? And by the way, EEOP adds, beyond age, gender, religion, race, it adds sexual orientation, veteran status, marital status, okay? It identifies protected classes of people.
I
So,
feel like in Texas, sexual orientation was not protected.
so the federal mandate now says that employers cannot discriminate based on sexual orientation and identity. Federal mandate. Yep, that changed more than 2 years ago. Equal Employment Opportunity Protection. So that is the law, and the commission is the agency of the federal government. So if, let's say, you were the victim of discrimination, you would file a complaint through the EEOC, agency of the federal government. Okay? So the law, the agency. Cool? Good? Good? No? No? This is the law itself. The law says you, employer, cannot discriminate against people based on their age, sex, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, veteran status, marital status. The commission is the agency of the federal government that hears the discrimination cases, that oversees the law, that makes sure that companies are not breaking the law. Law, agency. Okay, number 3, Equal Pay Act. Yes, 1963, and we're still talking about it. Women must be paid the same as men. right? Cannot have a disparity in wages. Number 4, OSHA, O-S-H-A. The workplace cannot harm us. It cannot make us sick, okay? Believe it or not, once upon a time, people were allowed to smoke in the workplace. Workplace could mean a lot of things: bars, restaurants, offices, airplanes, for crying out loud. You could get on a plane and smoke a cigarette during a flight. How amazing is that, okay? OSHA says the workplace cannot harm or make us sick. It could be as simple as like the rug being installed improperly and I trip and fall. That's an OSHA violation. Anything that can hurt me or make me sick. OSHA. Okay? Workplace has to be safe and healthy. Next, ADA. So the American Disability Act says we cannot discriminate against somebody with a visible or invisible disability. So visible is obvious, somebody in a wheelchair. Okay? And by the way, if somebody in a wheelchair applies for a job, do we have to hire them? If somebody in a wheelchair applies for a FedEx delivery job where they have to deliver 50-pound packages, can we discriminate against them?
Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. Why?
They can't fit in now.
Physically.
They can't do the job. That's it, okay? They can't do the job. So the law's not saying you must hire every disabled person. It's you cannot use the disability as a method of discrimination if they can do the job, right? If somebody who is super qualified to be a receptionist, who happens to be in a wheelchair, applies, cannot discriminate against them. And the law requires that you make reasonable accommodations. What is a reasonable accommodation? It could be small things that help them better do their work. What are invisible disabilities? I'll give you one example: cancer. So technically, you cannot discriminate against somebody who has an invisible illness, cancer, diabetes. What else? Pregnancy. Pregnancy can be visible or invisible. Technically, pregnancy is a short-term disability. I know that sounds kind of mean, but it is. The ADA covers, you cannot be discriminated. Now, don't show up for a job interview 9 months pregnant. You're probably not going to get the job, but that is illegal. Okay? All right, questions so far? Want to review as we go? Number 1, Civil Rights Act protects age, race, religion. Equal employment opportunity protection protects age, race, religion. What else? Sexual orientation, gender, veteran status, marital status. Equal pay for women. OSHA says the workplace has to be safe. ADA says
No discrimination.
no discrimination against those with disabilities, and we have to provide accommodations, reasonable accommodations. Good. Okay, last one. FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. Really important, I have to tell you, this one only applies to companies with 50 or more employees. So don't make this mistake. 50 or more employees. Family Medical Leave Act, 12 weeks of unpaid leave to take care of a sick loved one, and your job is safe. Or I should say, a job is safe. This law allows an employee to leave the company for 12 weeks unpaid to care directly for a sick loved one. And a job, it has to be guaranteed to them when they return. Maybe not the exact job, but a job. Okay, Family Medical Leave Act applies to 50 or more employees, care for a sick loved one. Good? Questions? Okay, one last topic. How many of you guys saw the movie Bombshell? This one. Anybody have saw it or gonna see it? Gonna see it? Gonna see it? Okay. You guys should totally see it. It's really, really good. Let me tell you what it's about. So it is about Roger Ailes. And Roger Ailes was the former CEO, chairman of Fox News. Roger Ailes was systematically sexually harassing female anchors, including this one. These ladies, you probably know these actresses, Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie. played various Fox News anchors. He was literally saying, if you do not sleep with me, and he was this, not that it matters, but this repulsive individual, not that that should matter. Being attractive or not attractive does not give you the right to sexual harassment. But he was saying, if you do not sleep with me, your career will be dead in newscasting, okay? There are two types of sexual harassment, and it's really important as employers that you all train against these things and then monitor for this stuff. Quid pro quo versus hostile work environment. Let's talk about this. Quiz question, exam question. Quid pro quo. We hear quid pro quo in the news all the time lately. What does quid pro quo mean?
If you do something, then you
Yeah, quid pro quo is a direct threat. Tit for tat. If you do this, I'll do that. If you don't do this, I'll do that. If you don't sleep with me, I will fire you. If you sleep with me, I will promote you. That's a quid pro quo direct threat, okay? Obviously that's sexual harassment and that's illegal. I don't need to explain that to you. The one that's not so obvious is hostile work environment. This is not a direct threat, but this is like lewd jokes, innuendos, off-color remarks, creepy touching, creepy staring, right? And not an isolated incident, but a repetitive pattern of this type of uncomfortable environment. That's also illegal, it's just harder to prove. Okay, I just want to show you a quick clip. You guys watch CNN? Yes, no? No? So I'm a CNN junkie. This is Alison Camerata. She's on the morning show now, but she used to work at Fox News. This is her quick recap of her experience with Roger Ailes, the creep who used to be the chairman of Fox News. Just 2 minutes, give you a sense of what was going on at that.
Why now?
Well, I don't relish the idea of talking about this. I left Fox about 3 years ago and have, tried to respect my previous workplace. I still have lots of close friends there. I talk to them all the time. I have lunch with them. I see them, and I don't like the idea of even criticizing my past workplace where I was for many years. But something feels different this week. It felt like there was a tipping point this week. When Roger Ailes was ousted in July, there was a lot of talk about what the culture was there. And now, with Bill O'Reilly having been fired, it feels as though, if I take the Murdochs at their word, they really want to know what was wrong there and what the culture was like. And I don't know how you get that from silence. So it feels like this might be the right time to just have this conversation and let some daylight in.
And you said on the air, Bill O'Reilly never harassed you, but you didn't say that about Roger Ailes. Did Roger Ailes ever sexually harass you?
Yes, Roger Ailes did sexually harass me. Let me be clear. Roger Ailes could be charming. He could be quite charismatic. He could be uproariously funny. He could also be a bit of a bully and mean. And he also was often kind of grossly inappropriate with things that he would say. And I think that many of us experienced that. He would talk about body parts. He would say, "Give me a spin." He would want to be greeted with a hug. But the time that I remember most was when I was first starting out at Fox and I was single. And I remember Roger being in Roger's office and I was saying that I wanted more opportunity. And he said, "Well, I would have to work with you."
Work with you?
I would have to work with you on that case. I would have to work with you really closely. And it may require us getting to know each other better. And that might have to happen away from here. And it might have to happen at a hotel. Do you know what I'm saying? And I said, "Yeah, I think I do know what you're saying." And I just want to say that I knew in my head at that moment, I'm never going to that hotel under any circumstances, but I didn't know what that meant for me and for my career. And I remember vividly that I had sort of an out-of-body experience hovering over us in the office and thinking, is this it? Is this the end of?
So you will see this exact same theme happen multiple times in the movie, and the movie's based on interviews with all these different newscasters. Basically, it's if you didn't put out, you weren't going to go far at that news station. So